Welcome back to the Hope Show. For this episode, I have with me Gabby.
Hello, everybody.
Angel.
Hi.
Danielle.
Hello.
And I am Julie. And this episode, we're going to be talking about experience-based learning, project-based learning in ABA, naturalistic teaching, incidental teaching, and really addressing the issue of compliance-based training and why we don't use that approach, and what we want to really address from the concerns of the community of adults with autism and what they have expressed, autistic adults have expressed that we see a lot all over the internet is ABA is abuse. ABA is abuse because it's dog training. It doesn't give a voice, things like that. And we really at the Hope Source, it's really important for us to listen to those voices. And for a long time, that was something that was really, really at the heart of our mission is to understand that and not necessarily, go with a compliance-based training, but go above that. Mm-hmm. And I think with this episode, I also want to kind of really address the myth that ABA does need to be compliance-based and compliance-driven, and how we need to have more pretend play, age-appropriate pretend play, and really the autonomy of the individual that we're serving. So that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So just to get started, kind of what has been your experience in a naturalistic teaching or play-based ABA?
So I was taught, I've been at the Hope Source for about 10 years.
Can't
and
believe
I was maybe 20 when I started home programs using Lova-style ABA. So in all of the time prior to my experience at the Hope Source, I was taught that naturalistic teaching and natural environment teaching was being in natural environments, whether that be a play set, like the farm set, or a playground, mm-hmm. and placing demands about the things that were around or to play with the materials. So, we're going to put the farmer in the barn. Now we're going to get the horse. The horse says moo, or, the child wants to slide, and I pause them. What do you want? I want to slide, and then I allow it. And that's really how I was taught to teach mm-hmm. play skills prior to learning about the Hope Source.
I had a very similar experience. That's what I was taught. Now, previous to ABA, I was a teacher, and even then, it was taught in a similar way, too. Okay. So, though I was taught certain things about child development, we kind of used play in that same exact way. And that's okay, but I think, what Julie kind of hits on is that we got to go further when we're teaching somebody how to play. We have to go further into it. You can use play to teach certain things, but when we're teaching somebody how to play, that's different.
I think it's not just teaching them how to play. I think that one of the things with children, and when children they're social beings from a very early age, from birth, and really become very, very social at 3 and 6 months of age. And as they're having this back and forth, the social emotional reciprocity, that is one of the characteristics in the DSM for the autism diagnosis, that social that is how you learn to play. You learn that through those experiences. You learn those through those kind of opportunities where you're watching your mother do something, or your father, your grandparent experience something, or play with you, or whatever that may be, and then you expand it upon with your siblings and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really just, why are we reinventing the wheel for children with autism?
Right.
Instead of just looking, okay, what kind of skill acquisition, what kind of areas that are, that they struggle with play, with that social emotional reciprocity. If we can heal that, engagement between two people, that is where you learn to play.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really going to the heart. I mean, I can teach you these very static things that the cow says moo, and I want you to say it over and over and over again. But if you can't have this back and forth, nowhere in the DSM does it say that the diagnosis of autism is because you can't say moo, or you don't know how to verbally tell me that's a cow. I think that's nowhere in there, so
Right.
it's just really going to just a deeper place.
Yeah. I have a really unique experience in ABA and, autism only being at the Hope Source. So I started off playing, but I feel that I excelled as a guide and then an RBT because that's how you get to know kids.
Right.
You play with them. So I couldn't see another way to teach these skills without play. Because they are kids. And no matter what age, it doesn't matter, our little ones to, our adults, there's still that element of play and relationship.
Age appropriate, yeah.
And age appropriateness. And, because I've gone through all of those stages just personally, as a person, like me transferring those skills, like I'm just basically what I've learned as a person, I'm trying to give to, the people that I work with. And I didn't learn the cow goes moo. Like, that's not how I learned. So why would I do that for somebody else?
And we do have, as toddlers, we have that repetition.
Right.
But it's a different way of exploring our environment. It's not because our parent, we said that, 100 times a day where we had to repeat that. I think when it turns into what are we trying to get here? What is the purpose? And I think that goes to the heart of our goals and what our treatment goals look like. Because our treatment goals do look very different, I think, in that because we have social emotional goals, flexible thinking goals, cognitive goals that really require this engagement. I think that is kind of where we get those, where it's in repetition, but repetition in a very ultra naturalistic way.
And it's what you're looking for, because play, when you're really playing, it's an equal partnership.
Right.
My goal isn't for you to comply with what I said to do. It's that mutual decision making and evolution of what's happening in the play.
Yeah.
Our behaviors are contingent on each other.
100%. And what you want is equally important as to what I want. And it evolves that way. If I go into it saying we're going to do farm play set and that's what we're doing, and it doesn't work out because you have another idea and it evolves from there, but I'm unwilling to hear it because I've decided it's time for farm play set, that's not true play either.
Right.
But I think speaking to, going back to what I was saying about the goals, I don't know, speaking to the when you have compliance training, what are we taking data on when we say, and that's always the hard part, too, is because we might have a task that's a natural task that needs to be completed in our cafe. The peanut butter and jelly sandwiches need to be made. But am I requiring you, is that our therapeutic goal that you complete this task? And it's not.
Yes.
If today's not the day, or today you're feeling anxious, or today you just don't want to make the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But as we're working through our goals of how do we get through, the feelings that you're feeling right now, and be able to work together, in that partnership. And that might mean that I take on,
that's what I was going to say.
A greater role responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
So you may not be feeling like it's your peanut butter and jelly day, but I'm still going to present that opportunity to you and show you that it's okay and it's safe, and that we can do it together. And we're going to build trust in that way, because I got your back. Like,
Supporting you through this.
I'm supporting you through this. Come when you're ready. but I'm still going to deliver every single day those opportunities for you, because ultimately, you know, we're both here for our quality of life, and I want you to have these experiences. So that motivates me to keep going and keep delivering. And then just for me getting that reinforcement when they do join. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and it's not just to one client, it's across clients. I've done this same way of delivering and sticking with it and, you know, meeting them where they're at. And all clients, I mean, most clients join me, and that's just so impactful for me and for them.
For them.
Yeah.
Because
And
I think
you're
it's
earning-
over.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're earning their trust
Right.
that way as well.
Right.
And you're providing that consistency without the pressure.
Right.
I'm not going to make you do this. There's value in doing it with me.
Right.
And, you know, just no pressure.
And that's where when we talk, we'll have a whole episode probably on intrinsic motivation,
Yes.
because it's such a big thing in reinforcement.
Yeah.
And that's another day. But I think that the value of we accomplished this or we didn't get their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but now I know that I expressed to Gabby how I was feeling, and she was able to say, you know what, we're going to sit over here, we're going to calm down. And then once I got to a better place, I was able to go back and maybe make a sandwich or two or not.
Yeah.
But I felt like I did something that I felt accomplishment.
Right.
And nobody has to say, you know, you had to do this.
Yeah.
Because
And you felt
that's where
heard.
it's
Well,
Sorry.
sorry. I was just gonna say, I think the biggest piece to that, especially as a BCBA, you know, when I'm looking at data, again, we're not taking data on if you can make the peanut butter and jelly. The peanut butter and jelly, the task is not the goal. We may be looking at a whole different goal, but because our goals require engagement, all we're looking at is what kind of task or how can I present this task to you so that you're not fearful.
Right.
And I'm going to support this. I'm going to support you through this. And whether or not you make them, maybe you meet your goal.
I think that's the big thing with the data collection and the goal that we so on the treatment goal, if the goal is reading nonverbal communication, because that is one thing that affects all relationships. Everybody has that challenge in their relationships or their marriages or whatever, where it's like your spouse or your significant other, whoever it is just like, you don't understand me.
Yeah.
You're not getting me. And then, individuals on the spectrum also have additional challenges, because if they do have trouble reading facial expressions or that kind of thing, it's already hard enough without that extra added layer. So I think that when our goals are something that they would subscribe to, which is evidence-based practice, because that piece of evidence-based practice is the desire of the client. We're not choosing that for them. They want those relationships. They want those friendships. They want those. They want to have a girlfriend, whatever that may be. And so one of those things is you have to read other people, or there's always going to be a messy situation.
Right.
So you can have that. That's the natural, desire. So if our goal in the peanut butter, we're going to keep going with the peanut butter and jelly. Are we going to keep going?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
so. Making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and being able to, have a target goal where there's an opportunity, because there's going to be a million natural opportunities for reading nonverbal. If all of a sudden the, glop of jelly, falls off the knife and we're both going to look to each other and be like, ooh, or make a face, and for you to know what that means without me saying that, that's a big deal. But when we're talking about that in that moment and having opportunity after opportunity to be able to read that and know what it means, it's going to build your confidence in all your other relationships. Making you make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, tact the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, say peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't know. Tell me what comes next. What's missing? Those are important things. But that's not what we're trying to get.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is why we can't do compliance-based, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
Right.
For the goals that we're targeting.
Right.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Because in order to truly learn the facial expressions, you have to experience that with another person. It's not about here's a picture of mad,
Yeah.
memorize it.
Right. Not everybody's mad looks
You
the same.
can't truly learn that.
Right.
But you're learning it through an activity that is somewhat meaningful, but also this back and forth between you two
Right.
is how you're really going to meet.
Well, I think the
learn that.
workplace. I mean, how many times that we have these authentic making peanut butter? It's not about making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You're going to have things in your not just relationships, but your work relationships, and you're working next to somebody, okay, and they make a face at you, or make a face not at you, but like, okay. And you can't read that, then there's no way for you to know that something needs to be repaired.
Right.
And then that relationship, fizzles out, or it doesn't actually happen. And you're left wondering, what happened? What did I do? Why doesn't this person like me?
Yeah.
When it's really just something that impactful. So the meaningfulness of the goals that we're targeting, which is a whole nother episode as well. But it's that experiential learning, and we all learn it the same way. All human beings learn through those experiences with another person, and so that is why treatment, really, we challenge everybody to move away from compliance-based ABA, because they can learn these things in an experiential way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, that, yes, we don't care about the task, but it's because those skills are going to be learned anyway.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when I
Incidental.
think about, learning how to cook when I was little, making cookies with my mom, I was worried about the experience with her, not necessarily making the cookies, but now as an adult, I can go make the cookies. You know what I
Right,
mean? I'm
right.
still learning these skills. I know how to crack an egg. Yes, my mom may have showed me those kind of things, but
all
she
of that
didn't
comes
train
back
me.
to you,
Right.
though. That you think about your mom when you're making cookies. You can't
Right.
help it, and you go back to that moment of like, oh yeah, she did that, and it was just through that exchange
Right.
that it evolved.
And
to have you.
it motivated me to try different things. Maybe I'm going to try cooking different things, or try something different that I never done before, because I have this experience with my mom that was so meaningful.
What do you mean, generalization?
Oh, the G word. No. But yeah, you're generalizing these skills because you were successful, with somebody doing this thing that I was afraid of, and now I get to move on and try it again with or without that person.
Yeah.
Because, it's meaningful to you. So.
And I think that kind of is a really good segue into the project-based learning that we use.
Yep.
We do the purpose project,
Yeah.
and Gabby, you had that up, but I think it's a really good way to provide a backdrop for our RBTs to target the goals, but also it's a really good way to create some productive uncertainty for the clients as well.
And expose them to new ideas,
In a
new
safe-
information in a safe way.
Because I think I love the hope tank.
Yeah.
And the first experience, well, even Hope Tube, and the talent show. One of the things that kept going over every time, is, my client, he doesn't want to, he's refusing, but it's the novelty of it.
Right.
And then by the end of the 6 weeks, you see their shoulders back, they walk in and be able to present and be able to be on film.
Right.
And it's just about going through that process.
Right.
But when you have, that RBT who is that solid person, you walk away and you see that dynamic, and and you see them shift and reference, their
Utilizing
RBT.
their skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they see that, and it's like, I can do this.
Yes.
And I'm standing in front of all these people being filmed, but I know that person is there to help, help co-regulate with me and help me to where I know that I can do it.
Yeah.
And that aspect of it is how you learn to overcome, how you learn to cope, how you have to learn that through another person. I cannot train you to cope. That is not a thing.
And we're not saying you must.
Right.
And you must.
You
And
must
if you
cope.
don't want to film,
You must cope. Yes, you're doing this because I'm
Right.
requiring you to do this.
Right.
By the
It's
end of
not
it,
the
they're
motivation.
wanting to do
Yes.
it.
I mean, we've had-
and the way that we break it down too. I
Yes.
wanted to talk about that, breaking it down into these smaller steps, these engagements, so that we can work up to being on stage.
Yep.
And our clients are exposed to these concepts and ideas, but they don't have to fully buy in just yet. They have opportunity to kind of feel it out. It's really slow. It's, you know,
and even the ones who say I refuse all the way up to
those
the
are
last minute,
my favorites.
the very last minute, and they say, "Wait a minute, I take it back. I want to
Yes.
do it," and it
Yep.
was on their own, and
Right,
nobody
on their terms.
And so this idea, I think that ABA needs to be compliance based, and we can talk about demands, and really what the voice and demands, and when it's appropriate, and the time and a place for those types of things, but. That doesn't mean that it has to be that way.
Right.
To
Right.
successfully meet all of our, our treatment goals by doing these very authentic and meaningful and personal, really accomplishments
Right.
that they get to experience really every day.
Yeah.
And it's an accomplishment between two people, because between us is the hard part.
Yeah.
Between us is what the DSM says is the difficult part.
Right.
Trying new things is what the DSM
Yep.
says is the difficult part for these individuals. Okay, that's what causes their anxiety. That's what causes their stress response. And when you remediate that, I guess that interpersonal, that social emotional, I don't have to be anxious anymore.
Right.
And it's really really just a beautiful thing.
And not all anxiety is bad.
Right.
Then, that's
It's a
another
healthy thing.
takeaway. Yes. That it's okay. Everyone feels a little anxious. And that
Yeah.
even that shared experience.
Right.
We're both anxious to be on camera.
Right.
But we got
Yeah.
this.
Right.
Yeah, we can work through this
even
together.
That, yes.
That's super important.
So important.
I think another thing at the end of every single purpose project, I think we have at least 5 say, "I am so proud of myself.
Yes.
My mom and dad would be so proud of me."
Yep.
Every time, and it's just working through that, because that is a part of life. You're met with obstacles that could cause anxiety or stress, and it's about, okay, how can I work through this? And if you learn to work through that, then you can work through anything.
And not even just working through it, but also as, you as a BCBA or me as an RBT, I'm going to scaffold and make sure that you are successful. So I'm going to provide as many opportunities as I can. And then if it's not working out, or if there's something we need to tweak, I'm going to make those adjustments for you to be successful. It's not like we're just throwing you out there and you're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's like moving and shifting with the client to make sure that they're, feeling safe. And
That makes me think of, making sure, I think a lot of times we talk about not going over. There's, here we're really, really focused, but I think sometimes, at least in my past experience, what I had found was the most, what I didn't love is I felt like I was way under. When I had to teach very, not discreetly, but when I had to teach very rotely, I felt like it was underestimating that ability. And compliance training does do that in a sense. And we really have to push, the days that, in the 60s and 70s when we thought that, people with autism also had an intellectual disability. And we know that that's not the case anymore. So we can't continue to do the trainings, to do the compliance, to do all of that,
the
because
errorless teaching,
but back then
all
we
those
didn't
things.
know. Back then we thought that was the best way to do it. And that was the only way for them to learn. And because that we know it's not true, then we can raise this bar to have these, to not be necessarily about the test, which is there's still tasks.
Right.
We still have a lot
and they
of tasks.
still get completed. And as
Yeah.
our clients, and I think you've said this, but as our clients grow with those skills and we're bridging those gaps and their deficits, the faster I've seen them make progress in those tasks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and it might help our clients that we're not focusing on the task, that they know that we can do it whenever, however, and it takes that pressure off, the no pressure, no quitting.
No pressure, no quitting.
Kind of thing.
It's difficult to switch your mindset too, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we can, avoid that. I think that was a difficult thing for me as well, is truly when I was talking last episode about, understanding what it looks like, the target behaviors and things like that. Part of the reason that was difficult for me was because I could not shake my task completion mindset. And really, truly understand that it wasn't about the peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
And that I had so much pressure and so much background of making sure the peanut butter and jellies get made that it was difficult for me to see the process. Actually, it's this interaction and engagement between the two of us that's the goal.
Yes. Recently, I was just asked by somebody that a BCBA asked me, I believe in an interview, but I was talking about all of this and how we do things differently, and it's not task, and trying to help her understand. One of the things is she was like, "But how are you getting these treatment plans authorized by insurance for services?" And I said, they go to the same place that everyone else's go to. So in that, when it's really about the goal, and and she was under the impression that it had to be about these tasks and completion. And it's just, I just want to make sure that just understand that it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
And as we talk later in other episodes about like what really is ABA and the just understanding about that, I think that that's going to help people to make that clear on that doesn't have to be, how it's kind of always been done.
Right.
And we can take it up to the next level. We can do these things where you don't have to fear compliance. Doesn't mean you have to fear them running away. Doesn't mean that they get away with everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that if you don't place the demand, you're going to reinforce that behavior. And we can, we can show that, and I'm excited to show that. And I think that, there is a time and a place for demands. There is a time, and that's safety and dignity. And, and that's what we always say to everybody, they don't have to do anything unless they're unsafe and unless it's going to compromise, how everyone sees them.
Right.
So,
but when we do place those demands after we've established ourselves as trusted people, it's not perceived as this demand. It's like,
thanks for helping me.
thanks for helping
Yes.
me. I'm here for you. And when we're placing those demands for safety, just in my experience of, crisis intervention and those kind of situations, like, I'm using supportive language. I'm saying, I'm here for you.
I got you.
But we got to get off this table. Because I don't want you to get hurt.
Yeah.
Not because I want you to listen to me because I'm an
Yes.
adult.
Right.
It's
And
because
it's that message.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, and I want us both to stay safe.
Yes.
And I think it goes
It's
back
my
to
job
always-
to keep you safe.
Yes.
Right.
And it goes back to the thing they say about like, who am I to you?
Yes.
And we're not the parents.
Right.
We aren't. And we're not just some adult that you need to comply with, that we're just this 30 figure that your parents dropped you off to get therapy. Yes, there's some consent in that as a minor, but that is not human to human. There has to be this mutual decision to learn from each other. That's the only way you learn from another person, is if there's a decision that we're going to engage in this together. I feel safe engaging with you, and I want to learn from you. And that is where true learning comes from.
You can. I know
And
that
the
I can't learn.
practitioner needs to be the one establishing that. I think previously it was almost implied that the client needs to trust me, and they needed to do the work,
Right.
because I was the one placing the demands in authority. And
Yes.
something I like about the Hope Source is there's a little bit of a flip. It's more work on me as the practitioner to earn your trust, actually.
Yes.
With our approach.
Yes.
And
That's huge.
it is huge.
But that's what they deserve.
Yeah.
It is what they deserve.
I was just going to say, I think, going on, like on that, what a safety issue to train somebody that an adult tells me what to do, I do it.
Yeah.
It's very
dangerous.
scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
I wouldn't want my child to learn that way.
Nope.
Right.
and I didn't learn that way. So what is the difference between that and a person,
especially a
who's autistic?
vulnerable population,
Right.
That's vulnerable to being taken advantage of. And so I think that we need to kind of check just our practices and making sure that those don't actually create more vulnerability.
Yes.
So I think that as we challenge, everybody in the world watching, hopefully that you can, understand how this, maybe a different way of just kind of pushing the envelope and how to, take, maybe just different approaches and make them a little bit less with compliance based without fearing that you're going to lose them. So I think that we have a lot of material to cover over the next several weeks and kind of dig in. So for that, then we'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Stay
Bye.
tuned.